What's up everyone, it's Karthik with MoneyVest. So in this video, we are going to be talking about Palantir stock. This is going to be a full update on this company as we get closer and closer to getting up to a new all-time high, as Palantir right now trading at just over $32 a share. So we are very, very close to brand new all-time high, which sits at just over $44, almost $45. And now Palantir is only down less than 30% from that breakout moment. So incredible amounts of momentum here coming in from this company since December 2022. It's up a whopping 459%. Excellent balance sheet, significant amounts of potential. I've done several videos over the last 3 years on this company, and more recently breaking down Palantir's earnings and including Alex Karp's overall messaging with the company, and of course mentioning how the best for the company is not behind us, but instead in the future. So that's exactly what we're going to discuss in this video as you come over here to Palantir. Again, the quarterly shift happened in the last quarter of 2022 as you come over to fundamental analysis, and you'll take a look at the overall numbers on a quarterly basis for the company going back, let's say 16 quarters, and gross profit, again, consistent growth here quarter over quarter. But this right here is really where the shift happened for the company from losses over to actual profitability, and they haven't looked back ever since. They continue to push higher and higher, generating over $134 million in net profit bottom line income for the company in the most second quarter 2024. So we got huge updates to break down here. So make sure that you drop a like and subscribe to the channel, and also share these updates with your friends, family, other traders, and investors that can benefit from this as well. So first things first, let's talk a little bit about Palantir's cost basis. So this is going to be the position cost distribution for Palantir. Now we have a whopping 99% of investors are now in the green and profitable for Palantir. It's very, very good to see that all of this is actually green. So most of the traders and investors, 99% in fact, are profitable now on this investment. Makes a lot of sense because we're very close to all-time highs. There's still a very small sliver of investors sitting at well over $32 a share, but it's only a matter of time, I feel, in my opinion, where Palantir is going to break out to well over $40 new all-time highs. And the average cost right now for all Palantir shareholders is sitting at just over $25.74. So it's kind of crazy to see that 99%, we've actually seen this number down to 1% of shares profitable when it was trading in the low sixes, I believe. So if you come over, it was trading in the low sixes over here. And then, of course, pushing up to $32 is a huge milestone for the company, as we already know. Now, coming over to some of the institutional purchases. So this right here is the buy-sell institutions. And you can see that on a more recent quarterly basis, that number has been accelerated, more specifically since the fourth quarter of 2022, as you can see over here. And that, again, is perfectly aligned with the fourth quarter of 2022. As profitability has increased, more and more companies and more institutional investors have gotten more interested on Palantir. So really what I want you to focus is on the green bar, and you can see that how it has been accelerating higher as more and more institutions have gotten involved, roughly around 1,200. So number of institutional holders for Palantir is about 1,200. And this is exactly why I've mentioned before that Palantir had such a negative sentiment, because the company was not profitable. And this is what bottom line institutions and hedge funds and pension funds and different banks look for, right? They want to see profitability, they want to see cash flow and positive net income. And that's when they're going to start stepping in. And that's what happened. That's the switch that happened for the company in the fourth quarter 2024. Now, this right here are some of the big purchases in the second quarter 2024. So Norge Bank, which is the Norway's largest sovereign fund, $24 estimated average price. This is a new position, buying over 11 million shares for Palantir in the second quarter 2024. BlackRock, estimated price of $21.42, 6% increase, adding another 7 million shares. And D.E. Shaw, about just under $15, adding another 6 million shares. And Citadel Advisors, as we already learned, Ken Griffin, adding over 1,140%, or another 5 million shares. So these right here were the big purchases, and they were nothing compared to the big sales. And one of the main ones was, of course, Renaissance Technologies, which I also broke down in one of my previous videos, basically getting rid of almost 8 million shares, or 16.5% drawdown. So again, they're not completely out of the stock, but they definitely did exit about 16%. We did have Cube Research Technologies, Millennium Management. They were the ones that were actually selling off quite aggressively. Two Sigma Advisors also selling about 5 million shares, or completely selling out of their positions, and Cube Research Technologies also selling all of their position, with Millennium Management down over 50%, selling 7 million shares. But all in all, we have seen institutional involvement increasing over time as the company has gotten more and more profitable. Now, this right here was also an interview from Palantir's chairman and co-founder Peter Thiel, and how he mentions that right now what we're witnessing with artificial intelligence is very similar to what we looked at for internet back in 1999, right? So it could be seen as a bit of a bubble. It could be seen as something that we haven't really fully figured out, but we know that it's going to be playing out for decades to come. It is a brand new technology that's going to revolutionize how we engage with the digital services and technology in general, and more specifically data. And that is going to change everything, right? The way we interact, the way we do work, the way our productivity is. But of course, right now there's a lot of big concerns that this could be a potential AI bubble, because a lot of stocks are moving higher and again trading at very expensive valuations because of the artificial intelligence idea or the concept behind it. But for me personally, as I mentioned before, that you can make a case for, let's say, higher valuations for certain companies, but at the end of the day, they're not particularly in a bubble territory, because these are companies that have very strong cash flows, profitable companies. We've got very good revenues, very good growth, and excellent balance sheets as well. So a bubble is something that is non-existent, right? So back in the 1999-2000, many of the companies were in a bubble because they didn't really have anything. They only had a business model, or they only had a concept or an idea and nothing to show for it. No revenues, no cash flows, no earnings, nothing. But in today's day and age, a lot of these companies that are implementing the power of AI are already well-established companies, including Palantir. But again, you can make a case for why Palantir trading at a very expensive valuation at the moment. So if you come over to the ratios, you'll notice that Palantir's valuation is indeed, very, very high at over 92 times forward earnings multiple, and a little bit over 31 times sales on a trailing basis, and just over 26 times, 27 times forward price to sales multiple is expensive, right? So one can definitely make a case for why Palantir is an expensive stock, but at the same time, they also do have very, very high growth rate expectations for the future. So we're looking at 275% growth in 2024. By the way, if you want to access this entire platform, link's going to be down below. This is our very own MoneyVest platform that you can take advantage of with a 16% annual discount that does expire at the end of this month. But we've got 275% for 2024, then 20%, 20%, just a little bit over 19%, 22%, 21%. So on a compounded annual basis, I've also plugged that in. You'll notice that the P multiple comes down from 95 down to about 30, as the growth rate is over 42% on a compounded basis for Palantir over the next 7 years, which again, you can make a case for why Palantir could still very well be a bit more undervalued at these levels. So if you come over to our Analyzer tab, come over to the discounted earnings multiple model, hit autofill. By the way, we're working on a brand new case analysis model as well, which is going to be available next week, where you can pretty much do bear case, base case, and bull case analysis on individual stocks. But let's say that Palantir is able to grow their bottom line profit, net income for the next 7 years by over 40%. And we give them a multiple which is close to 40, that keeps a PEG ratio at close to 1, 12% discount rate, 10% margin of safety, and let's say, little to no dilution of 0% for the company, as they have already done a lot of dilution. Let's say moving forward, they don't do any dilution, which makes the company still a little bit more on the overvalued side by almost 50%. So yes, valuation is high for Palantir, because if you take a look, let's say just go over to 70 times P multiple and a growth rate of over 50%. Let's see what the numbers end up looking like now. Now it's undervalued. So it's going to be closer to, let's say, 50. So if you apply a 50 and 50, now we're pretty much at where the price is. So fair value ends up at $32.77, and the current share price of $32 as well. So if you come down, see more, this is going to be that grid, or that pretty much that table, which essentially is going to show us how the company's forecasted future looks like. So right now, net income $314 million. And if the company is able to grow their net income to over $3.6 billion, that's a compounded annual growth rate of over 50%, and the shares outstanding staying constant at 2.2 billion, that's when we're going to be looking at an earnings per share of $1.61 with almost 20 times forward P multiple, sets us up for a fair value, which is exactly where it is right now, and a future target price of well over $80 per share. So $80 would be that future price target, considering that Palantir is able to grow their bottom line profit by over 50% and also trade at a 50 times P multiple. And that's going to be a total return of well over 145%. But I'll leave it up to you guys to really decide whether that is acceptable or whether that is the most possible outcome or not. So our job here is to be very objective and understanding of the fact that yes, this company is fantastic. It's got a lot of potential, no doubt about it. There's artificial intelligence, and also a huge catalyst that come online more recently is the Army Titan prototype, which, as we know, that Palantir won about $174 million contract from the Army of the United States for this Titan next gen intelligence hub, which the key features for this is going to be data fusion. So combining information from various sources like satellites, drones, and ground sensors, AI and machine learning, so leveraging those technologies to rapidly analyze vast amounts of data, sensor to shooter, accelerating the process of identifying targets and delivering precise fire, and situational awareness, providing real-time insights into the battlefield environment. As we know, that Palantir is very much focused on the warfare and the battlefield sector as well. And Titan acts as a central hub that collects, analyzes, and shares critical intelligence with troops on the ground, enabling faster decision-making and more effective operations. So this right here was the $178 million contract that Palantir won with the Army Titan and building 10 prototypes. And now there's actually some news. This broke out very, very recently, as early as I think yesterday, where this Twitter handle GoCarp essentially mentioned breaking Code Red Titan update, $1.5 billion worth of contracts coming up, and that's going to be the Titan production, scope of work, production of Titan systems, performance software updates, and provide initial support systems. Cost $1 to $1.5 billion, scheduled between fiscal year 26 and 2031. With 94 Titan prototypes, 36 Titan Advanced, and that is going to, I think the initial ones are going to go from 2025 to 2026, and then more coming online between 2026 and 2031. So this is all, significant market that Palantir has the potential to capture. So coming back over to our discussion on valuation, look, I am very optimistic on Palantir. I believe that Palantir has got a potential for growth here in the 30 to 40% range over the next 5 to 7 years. And it can also trade somewhere between 40 to 50 times P multiple, considering there's so much optimism and there's just a growth stock that more and more institutional investors are getting involved in. So if you go with somewhat reasonable numbers here, 40% growth rate and a P multiple of, let's say, 40 as well. And if you hit enter, we're going to be sitting at roughly around $16 to $20, right? $20 if I remove the margin of safety, considering that the company's got so much cash and practically no debt, we're sitting at just under $18. So $18 to $20 continues to be a level where it's a fair value where I would be a lot more aggressive. Now, that doesn't mean that that's the only price that I'm going to be waiting for to buy, because I have been picking up Palantir. I picked up Palantir last week, and I will continue to buy more shares in smaller quantities, right? I'm talking 50 shares, 100 shares here and there. But I'm talking if you want to buy in the thousands of shares, that would be the level where I would feel a lot more comfortable in and around like that $18 to $20 range. Now, does Palantir come down to that level? Great. If it doesn't, like I said, I'll consider the dollar cost average in smaller quantities for this company moving forward. So if you come over to the weekly time frame, this is the overall chart of consistent higher highs and higher lows as we discussed. Now it's coming up to its resistance. So this right here, somewhere between $29 and $35 is going to be that resistance, also aligned with this higher high over here. And that's going to be the next potential target that we're going to be watching for Palantir, sitting roughly around $35 to $36 for this company. So on the daily time frame, very, very significant momentum. I did pick up Palantir on Monday, August 5th at $20 a share, or closer to $21 wherever it opened. It opened at around $21.74, so that's where I picked it up. And then, of course, buying a little bit more in the 30s. We'll continue dollar cost average, like I said, at these levels in smaller quantities, but majority of my buying will once again be in and around these levels at where it was just literally 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, Palantir was at around $20, and that's where I would feel a lot more comfortable in dollar cost averaging and buying a little bit more aggressively. But that being said, nice 52% rally since then, and the next target is going to be all the way up to $37, $36, kind of aligned with this higher high for Palantir, and we're still very much within the context of this uptrend of very nice consistent uptrend of higher highs and higher lows over here. Very strong support sitting roughly, like I said, at $19, $20, and the resistance is going to stay put right over there for Palantir. We've also got the volume by price breakdown, and that puts our support for Palantir. Let me just update that for the recent numbers, and that sits us roughly around here at around $24, $25. That's where the majority of the volume sits for Palantir. But now we're coming up to the same resistance that we have tested from back in 2021. So big updates for Palantir. I feel like next week could also carry us forward in this momentum, getting up to $35, $36. But again, we can't get ahead of ourselves. With the RSI, of course, approaching those overbought levels, so is the MACD. The price itself seems a bit more overextended after a 50% rally. And of course, not to mention the valuation is starting to get a little bit bonkers at over 100 times earnings and over 30 times sales. So it really comes down to the type of investor, right? This may not be a stock that appeals to a lot of value investors that are more focused on the present and the current valuation. This is, let's be honest, Palantir at the end of the day is a growth company and depends very much on future growth. And if that were to continue, then of course there is potential for more upside, but that also carries significant amount of risk, right? Growth investing very much focuses on the future, and that carries risk. If the future is not exactly what the company was expecting or investors were expecting, then of course there's that risk of multiple compression and the prices coming down. But that's a risk that I personally feel comfortable taking on for a company like Palantir that has, in my opinion, a ton of potential with AI and everything that they're doing over the long term as well. One last thing I want to mention is that this person, so Bayray on Twitter, also posted that imagine a world where September 6th comes in and it is announced that Palantir will be added to the S&P 500. So that right there can be a huge potential catalyst for more momentum on Palantir. We roll into the FOMC meeting where we get a rate cut, 25 to 50 basis points, September 18. So that's been largely anticipated there. Next, ending the fiscal year where Palantir gets a load of government contracts last minute before the next fiscal year starts October 1st. And then Palantir has over a 30% growth year over year in quarter 3, continuing increasing revenue growth. And finally, we roll into the elections and more rate cuts, followed by a blowout quarter in fourth quarter for Palantir. So these are all putting together the perfect picture that Palantir investors most likely want to hear. And $40 end of the year doesn't sound so insane if you ask me. So that is, again, a possibility considering so much momentum, so much optimism around this company. So let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. But despite all of this euphoria, I still want all of us to be very objective in our understanding of the valuation and how Palantir does trade at a pretty significant valuation, expensive valuation to say. But that shouldn't stop at least the growth investors from looking into this company, dollar cost averaging in smaller quantities like I am right now, and being a little bit more aggressive in the 20s for Palantir. So hope you all enjoyed this video, found it helpful. Make sure that you drop a like and subscribe to the channel. Share this video with other Palantir investors. And as always, happy investing. I'll see you all in the next video.